to our Grateful for Graham Assembly, and thanks for being here. Our guest of honor is going to come over and say hi again. Graham, do you want to come say hi again? He loves his chocolate milk. Okay, so let's see. So most of you who see me roaming around the halls, you guys know who I am, right? I'm Ms. Robertello, and I am an OT teacher in the building. And this is my son, Graham. I'm sure you've all seen those red butterflies floating around that are covering almost a lot of the walls in the whole school, right? And you all know who those are for. Who are they for? They're for Graham. Now, does anyone know why a butterfly? So, if you see Graham right now walking around, you'll see that his skin might look a little different than yours, and that it's all bandaged or wrapped up. And we're going to talk a little bit about what Graham has and why his skin is wrapped. But Graham's skin is very delicate and fragile. So butterflies' wings are also what? They're fragile and delicate. So butterflies represent the condition that Graham has because of how frail their wings are and how frail Graham's skin is. Okay, but I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about why you've been seeing all those butterflies. And I would also like to say thank you for all of the teachers, and maybe even some of you, who helped to cut those butterflies out and put them all over the wall. It makes me so happy to see all of this school support. It's wonderful. And also thank you to all of you who have participated in Graham's Spirit Week. It's awesome to see. Okay, so we know Jones School is the best. So let's talk about what Graham has. Graham has a medical condition called epidermolysis bullosa, also referred to as EB. Graham, do you want to pronounce it for everybody? Teach them how to say it. What's EB? You don't want to say it? Hold, please. He's going to say it. Okay, just kidding. So it's called EB. It is very rare, which means not a lot of people have it, and it causes his skin to be very sensitive. Okay, so the skin is actually the largest organ in our body. Did you guys know that? It's actually an organ. So EB, again, which is what Graham has, mainly affects his skin. As I said, it causes the skin to be very sensitive. We have multiple layers to our skin, and they're anchored down with a protein called collagen. So that protein helps stick the layers of your skin together. Well, Graham's skin doesn't have that collagen. So that's why he gets wounds and cuts and sores a lot easier than you might. And again, that's why you might see him wrapped up. That's why you do see him wrapped up in his bandages. Just to put it in perspective, when I say rare, again, like I just mentioned, that means not a lot of people have it, and that's why we want to talk to you guys about it, so that we can spread the word and bring awareness to Graham's EB. There are over 3.5 million babies born in the U.S. every year. Is that a lot of babies? Yeah. There are only 200 babies born with EB, like Graham. And then even within that EB, there are different types. There are 4 different types of EB. And we're not going to get too much into the specifics of all of that, but Graham has what's called RD-EB, or recessive dystrophic EB. So Graham's type of EB, the RD-EB, the chance of someone being born with that are less than 1 in a million. Isn't that wild? So that's why you often don't see someone that has EB, which is, again, why we thought it was important to bring Graham here so that we could talk more about it. All right, so EB causes Graham's skin to be very fragile. Now, raise your hand if you've ever had a wound or a cut or a sore. Yeah, all of us, right? So that's something that we have in common with Graham. Graham just happens to get them a lot easier than you or I would. So you might get a cut or a sore from a really hard fall, or maybe from someone accidentally knocking you over, right? But there has to be a lot of impact. Graham can get a cut or a sore from very simple everyday things. So Graham can get a wound from even just holding his spoon or fork to eat. Graham can get a wound from playing with his toy a little bit too hard. If he pushes maybe his toy car that he loves to push a little bit too hard, he might get a wound from that where you wouldn't. Okay, sometimes even just wearing clothes gives Graham a wound if they're too tight on his skin and they rub. Okay, so again, we all get wounds and we all get hurt, but because Graham's skin is so delicate, he gets those wounds a lot easier than you might. Does that make sense? So again, like I mentioned, his skin is all wrapped. Now, all of you raised your hand and told me that you have had a wound or a cut or a sore. Raise your hand if you've ever had to put a Band-Aid on that wound or cut or sore. Everybody, right? Because it helps protect that skin that was affected, and it helps to heal and fix that wound or cut or sore. That's why you see Graham all wrapped up. The bandages that you see on Graham are like his big Band-Aid. Those are used to protect his skin as much as possible from getting those wounds from those everyday activities like we talked about, playing and eating and wearing clothes. And they also help to heal and fix the wounds that he does have. Does that part make sense? Yeah. So I actually have some of his bandaging supplies here. So here's a picture. I don't know how well you guys can see it in the back, but there's a lot of different supplies that we use for Graham's Band-Aid or his bandages. His first layer that goes on his skin is a little thin piece of foam. And the front is squishy and the back is very lightly sticky. So it sticks to his skin. And as you can see in the picture, we cut different sizes depending on what we're wrapping. Because Graham is wrapped, both of his arms are wrapped, both of his legs are wrapped to protect them, and his whole torso, or his belly and his back are also wrapped. And this is the very base layer, this thin foam. Then to keep the thin foam on, there's this little, it's really just a little, it's called Curlex, but if you can see it, we take this and we wrap it all around the sticky foam, and then we secure it in place with this stretchy bandage. And this is the part you'll see on his arms and legs from the outside. So it's a couple different steps. Whenever Graham gets his bath, we unbandage him, clean up all of his boo-boos, and then rewrap him. So again, we can protect the skin and heal it. Oops. So some people might want to know, can you catch EB? Or is EB contagious? What do you think? Can you catch Graham's EB? No. What are some things you can catch? Jack? You can catch a cold, the flu, yeah, there's all different kinds, especially we're just coming out of cold and flu season, right? So those are things you can catch. You cannot catch certain things or conditions like EB. Graham was born with his EB, and you can't catch it. That's an important thing to know. So that's a quick overview of Graham's delicate skin. And what I also want to let you guys know is I mentioned that skin is the body's largest organ. That's what's mainly affected by the EP, but Graham can also get wounds internally. He sometimes gets blisters in his mouth. He can get irritations in his eyes. He's prone to ear infections because the type of EB that he has can also affect inside his body as well, not just on the outside. And those might be some things that make Graham different from some of you, but guess what? Graham is a lot more than his EB, don't you think? Yeah, he's a friend, he's a son, he's a grandson. He's got a favorite stuffed animal and toy. Raise your hand if you have a favorite toy or something you like to do at home. Yeah. So Graham's got his favorite things he likes to do. Graham, do you want to come tell everybody? What do you like to do? What do you like to do?
Cops and robbers.
Graham likes to play cops and robbers. Graham was actually made an honorary police officer too. So he's a cop now. Graham, you want to show him your badge? Do you want to show everybody your badge? Graham also has favorite foods. Raise your hand if you have a favorite food. Yeah, I sure do. Graham, you want to tell everyone what you like to eat? No? Okay. Graham likes to eat cupcakes and pancakes and mashed potatoes and soup, popsicles, right? So just like you all have favorite foods, you have that in common with Graham. Graham has his favorite foods too. Who likes to go outside and play? Graham loves to be outside. He especially loves going for runs in the stroller with me. What about sports fans? Raise your hand if we have any sports fans in the house. Graham's a sports fan too. Can anyone see from this picture who his favorite team is? Yes, let's go Buffalo, right? So again, that's another similarity between you all and Graham. He likes a favorite sports team. You probably have a sports team that you like. So even though there are some differences, there's also a lot of things that are alike about you all and Graham. Don't you think? Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to watch a little video.
When you look around the classroom, the playground, or even your family, does everyone look the same? You're right, they don't. There are so many things about us that make us different and unique. Think about all the things that make you and others unique and special. But remember, not all of these things are things we can see. Likely people we know have different skin color, different hair color and texture, or different eye color. They may be in a wheelchair or have some other physical disability. Perhaps they don't think or learn the way you do. Maybe they have two moms or two dads, or maybe their family is religious. We all eat different kinds of food and wear different kinds of clothes. Some of us even speak different languages. There is so much more, and it's all very cool. Life would be pretty boring if we were all exactly the same, wouldn't it? We might think that these differences mean we can't understand one another, but that's not true. Even though we have all of these amazing differences that make us unique and beautiful, there is also so much about us that is similar. All of us, regardless of background or life situation or experience, have a lot in common. And one of the most important things is that we all have feelings. We all get worried and scared. We all get sad and cry. We all get frustrated and even angry. And we also all experience happiness and laugh. Perhaps most importantly, we all have a deep desire to be cared about and accepted for exactly who we are. The best thing we can do when we meet someone that seems different from us is remember that we are probably a lot more similar than we think. It's pretty awesome, and sometimes even surprising how many similarities we find once we really get to know someone. Think about something unique about yourself that makes you different from others and what you most love about that difference. And if you are so inclined, share it with others without any apology at all.
Okay, so again, the important message of that video, Jan? So the important message again of that video is that we all just want to be loved. We all want to be accepted. We all have things about us that are different. We have different opinions. We might look different, but that's okay. Different is great. Just like in the video, if we were all the same, wouldn't that be super boring? Yeah. So different is okay. We all want people to talk to. We all want people to sit with at lunch. We all want people to play with on the playground and on play dates. So the best way to live is to be kind to everybody, don't you think? Okay, so that's really the most important message that we want to spread here today, is being kind to everyone. Does anyone have any questions about Graham, his EB, anything we talked about? Jack?
His EB journal also you saw his adorable journal.
Do you want to say that?
Is EB curable? Also, you have an adorable son.
Thank you, Jack. That's a great question. Is EB curable? So right now, as it stands, there is no cure for EB. However, we are doing a lot of things to raise money for research because we have a lot of hope that someday in Graham's future, he will see a life with no EB and no wounds and no bandages. That's what we hope. Great question. Who else has a question? Over here? She wants to know why you guys brought your jackets, because guess what we're going to do together after this assembly in a few minutes? We're going to go on a walk, a Grateful for Graham walk around the building. Does that sound fun? That is a great question. What's your name, bud? Gina wants to know, does EB really affect Graham's life? And in a lot of ways, yes, it does. Because Graham has to be, again, very careful about everything that he does. Like I said, he can get wounds from how he holds his spoon, from wearing clothes, from playing with his toys. However, he still plays and watches his shows and hangs with his friends just like all of you do. We just have to be a little bit extra careful. But he still is happy and has a lot of enjoyment out of his life. Great question over here. Does Graham have to wear his bandages to bed? He does. The only time that Graham isn't all bandaged up is when we give him his bath. So right before bath, we unwrap all of his bandages and we check his skin. We check out his wounds. He gets blisters. I don't know if any of you know what blisters are. And then he goes into the bathtub without his bandages. And then as soon as bath is done, he's wrapped back up to protect his skin so he doesn't get more and to help heal the wounds that he has. Does the water have to be a specific temperature? Yes, it can't be too hot. So we have to be very careful, usually like lukewarm for Graham's bath. How do we dry him off? Very gently with a towel. Yep, because again, we want to be careful. He doesn't have those proteins that anchor the skin, so we don't wipe him really hard. We just gently pat him. Great questions, guys. Oh, that's another good. Are we able to have pets? You know what? We actually don't have pets because do you know what could happen? How many of you have dogs or cats? What happens to the dog and cat's fur sometimes? It does what? It sheds. And when that fur sheds, it could actually, because Graham's skin is so soft, it can embed or kind of get stuck right in his skin. So we have to be very careful, and Graham does not have pets. So the question here is, was he born or was he diagnosed older? Graham was actually born with EB. So we knew right when he was born that he had the EB because he was missing huge pieces of his skin and had just really big wounds all over his body. We did not know before he was born, but as soon as he was born, we did know that he had the EB. Did you want to say anything, Graham? No? All right, let's go over here. These are awesome questions. Can he take bubble baths? He sure can. Graham, do you like bubble baths? He's actually not a fan of the bubbles. The temperature that keep the house at, just anything like you guys would, just comfortable. Another good question, and I forgot to tell the younger kids too. How old, we got the question of how old is Graham? How old do you think Graham is? Any guesses? Oh, I'm seeing a lot of threes and or hearing a lot of threes, and you're correct. Graham is 3. He turned 3 in December. In his mouth. So we got a question, how can we tell if he has blisters in his mouth? And we can tell 2 ways. Sometimes if they're farther back or small, he will visibly be in pain when he's trying to eat, so we know. Or sometimes they're actually visible and we can see them. Oh, good question. When Graham's sick, do his wounds feel worse? I don't think so. Yeah, so the question over here is when he gets, when he falls or when he gets a wound, does it show up quick? And it does. And again, some of you know what blisters are. Typically when Graham gets a wound or a cut, it shows up as a blister first. Oh, you want to know the name of Graham's favorite stuffed animal? He's got 2, Mama Bear and Auntie Bear. And the one that was in the picture was Mommy Bear. So another question, how many times does he get hurt in a day? And it really depends. Some days, luckily, he doesn't get hurt at all. But most days, we do see at least 1 or 2 small new wounds that he hasn't had. So the other question, can you develop EB or are you born with it? And EB is a genetic disorder. As I mentioned, there are 4 different types. Some types people might not know initially that it is EB, but it is genetic, which means yes, every individual with EB is born with it. Yep. Red is, so we got the question over here. So we know the butterflies represent EB because of the frailty. And why red? Red is just the color of awareness for EB, Graham's condition. Yep. Wow, okay, let's take 2 more questions. Is it hard to put on his clothes? It's not, we just have to be gentle and extra careful. All right, our last question. And listen, if anybody does have remaining questions, you can tell them to your teacher, and your teachers can get them to me, and I can come around and answer some more of them, okay? Okay, so our last question, can he get blisters and wounds when we pick him up? And the answer is yes, because anything that causes friction, meaning anything that touches his skin, can give him a wound or a boo-boo, so sometimes picking him up could cause him, his skin is that soft, that could cause him to get a wound. All right, I really love the interest in all of these great questions. Like I said, if you still have something you want to know, have your teachers write it down, and they can give it to me, and I'll make sure you get an answer. Before we do our walk, though, I have 4 trivia questions. Okay, let's see who can guess my trivia questions and get a blow pop. All right, so I mentioned that EB affects the body's largest organ. Who can tell me what that is? I'm gonna go right here. What is the body's largest organ? The skin. You are correct. Okay. Who remembers? Got 3 more questions. Who remembers how many types of EB there are? 4. Is 4 correct? Sure is. All right, 2 more trivia questions. This is a tricky one. Who remembers how many babies are born in the US with EB each year? Remember, there's over 3.5 million babies born, but how many are born with EB? 200. You have a good memory. Yep. Okay, last question. Before our Grateful for Graham walk, we mentioned EB mainly affects the skin, which is the body's largest organ. It also, Graham can get blisters. Where else? I'm gonna go to the back for this one. Let's see. Right here in the black coat. In his mouth. Good job. Yep. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for supporting Miss Robertello and Graham. And who's ready to go for a Grateful for Graham walk? Okay.